Hey guys, welcome to another guide, and this guide is going to be based on Chasun. Okay, so the reason I picked Chasun is because a lot of people are using her in raids these days. So um, I think it's important to discuss like how to rune her for frontline and backline, right? So um, I mean, you can build her just normally like you would in PvP on Violent, Nemesis preferred, but you don't have to use Nemesis. You can use like Endure or Energy as well. Even Will, that's fine for PvP. For raids, it's most ideal to be on Nemesis, but if you need the stats from your Energy or Endure set, you can use that by all means. Um, and the stats you want to aim for are like as high HP as possible and as much speed as possible, right? Those are the two main stats. For raids, defense becomes the third most important, and you definitely still need one, still want some resistance, right? If you can get it to say, I think a good amount is about 70% or more. I probably wouldn't go too far beyond that unless it's purely for PvP. So for PvP, getting max resist is quite nice, right? But don't ignore defense and HP for it, right? Especially speed. Speed is probably the main stat you want to really stack on her. Now, as for the 246 build, there's something I want to clear up for some of the newer players, right? A lot of the newer players will try to copy like people in the top ranks on how they build a Chasun, right? So a lot of people who have really good runes will use HP on slot 2, HP and in slot 4, and also in slot 6, right? So basically triple HP all around. But then when I look at their runes, right, they rune it like that, but then they have absolutely no speed on the Chasun, and that's the wrong way to approach building Chasun. Because the first thing you want is her to be fast enough to keep your team up. Now, especially in PvP, you want her to move like first, like before your Field Mars, right? She's commonly paired up with Field Mars because she provides the attack buff. And if people focus down the Field Mars and pop his Endure, he's been on 0 HP, just look at Fallen Blossom and use the straight after, right? And to sync it correctly, you need Chasun to be a little bit faster than your Field Mars. And if you see me do Guild Wars and the runes on my Field Mars, right, when I use him in Guild Wars, you would notice that I like really fast Field Mars, right? You might not get to the 200 plus range, but even if you have like say a 170 speed Field Mars or something like that, you still want your Chasun to be at least a little bit faster than that. Something like in the 180 range. That way, she can do the attack buff for your Field Mars before he moves. It's very important because it increases his damage output a lot, especially if they bring will runes and he can't defense break them. At least he's got attack buff, so he can do a decent amount of damage, right? And if he Violent procs, then he should be able to kill someone even through will runes. So because of that, if you can't get the that sort of speed on triple HP, you should use speed on slot 2 instead. Okay, it's still fine. You miss out on some HP because her Amuse scales up HP, right? But I think it's worth it to make sure your Chasun is up to scratch in terms of speed. It's the single most important stat. Secondary is the HP. Then third is about like a little bit. It's pretty equal between defense and resist for the third most important stat. Okay. Now just to discuss her skills a bit. Alright. So first up is Fallen Blossom. This is probably the main skill that makes her so powerful in PvP. Her AI is generally pretty good with Fallen Blossom. Okay. So if she's really low, then she'll target the highest HP unit on your team to get her own HP up to the same level as that unit. And then if if her HP is quite high, she's like the highest on the team, and if someone else takes a lot of damage and is below a certain threshold, I'm not exactly sure what the threshold is, but at a certain point she'll decide to use Fallen Blossom on that unit to bring that unit back up to her her level of health. Okay, and then she also gains the attack gauge of whoever she targets. So this is another reason why it's important to make your Chasun a little bit faster than your Field Mars. So in the case where she's going to Fallen Blossom Field Mars, because Field Mars hasn't moved yet, he's still on basically full gauge, right? So Chasun will gain all that gauge back, and therefore she's guaranteed to Amuse straight after, pretty much, right? Unless someone cuts in and stuns her or something like that. And this only requires one skill up, so you definitely want to put, like if you've got spare Sky Dancers, then definitely put them into her. Worst case scenario, put Devilmont into her. I think it's very worthwhile to put Devilmont into her, even though she's only a 4-star, because you know it's very hard to find any other healer that does as much as she does. Probably the only one who has this like similar or higher healing output is Ariel, the Water Archangel, and you know he's in that 5, so you know not everyone's gonna have that. But Chasun is, you know, I guess you could say reasonably obtainable because she's only in that 4. You have decent chance to get her, right? Now we'll move on to the next skill, Amuse. So Amuse recovers by 20% of her own max HP, right? So this is why HP is quite important, and all the endgame builds will have triple HP on her, right? To maximize, you know, to get her HP as high as possible, and then using substats to keep her fast enough, right? And still on the Onslaught's runes, you still want to have, or try to have, HP substat and grind it up to further improve her total HP. And therefore, you know, therefore she will heal more with this ability. On herself, it doesn't heal a lot because you know 20% of her own max HP. But on other people, right? Because 20% of her max HP will be quite a large amount, right? And so on really low HP units like any nuker, you know, she'll pretty much full heal them, right? So I'll actually talk about that a bit more in the raid sense in a bit, once I show you her performance in the raid. Now her first ability is a glancing debuff. You've probably seen this be really annoying in PvP. You know, like, you bring her like a Field Mars and she'll always glance on Field Mars, pretty much, right? I assume it's max skilled. Mine's not max skilled because I managed to get you know, her Fallen Blossom and Amuse maxed before maxing Graceful Touch, so I didn't put any Devilmont into her. I used them for other units. But if I ever get spare Sky Dancers, I'll put it into her to finish her skills. But it's not that important because it just increases the harmful effect rate, and I believe increases the damage a bit as well. But that's not important. Like the main skills you want is to max Amuse so that you get a -1 cooldown on the last skill up, and then you also get increased healing output from the other skill ups. Okay, so I'll just show you her runes now, one by one, and you can see that, you know, I try to focus a lot on the speed substats and try to pick up defense and HP substats where possible. And if I've got the grindstones, I put the grindstones into those. Unfortunately, I don't have enough grindstones to grind them all up, but yeah, I did the best I could for now, and I'm just trying to farm more grindstones to completely max her out. Okay, and these stats survive in the front line for me when running 4 in the front. I believe she can actually survive without or sorry, without having 4 unit front. Like if I have 2 or 3 in the front, she should still survive, even though her defense is not particularly high. And the reason she can survive is because her base HP, well, not base, but her total HP pool is so high, right? Overall, she'll take a lot more damage, of course, so it's a lot more healing intensive to put Chasun in the front. But if you can put her in the front, it saves up or frees up an extra slot for another unit. You don't have to put like a dedicated frontliner in there. And just to show you other examples of Chasuns, right? So this is Silent Raindrops Chasun. These are her stats. She's got a bit more defense than mine has, but it survives in the front line. Okay, I mean his team occasionally wipes, but it's not very often. That's why I use him a lot as my support, and yeah, he keeps, well, his Chasun can survive with these sort of stats. And if you want to put them in front, basically you need good HP, a decent amount of defense. You know, I think 1k is quite high for Chasun because her base defense is quite low. So getting her to 1k is already pretty hard. But if you can get it to 1k, that's pretty good, as long as her HP pool is probably at least 35k or higher. And then you need her to have decent enough speed to keep up with healing. And 190 I think is not a bad amount of speed to have. This is Tishminen's one. Tish's one is even more defense, and he runs 3 units in the front line. His team is the most tanky out of the 3 of us. Like if we ever start to wipe, he's always the last one to die. And running 3 units in the front line helps it out a lot as well, because the more damage is allocated to the front line, and therefore they'll soak up more damage. And that's the sort of the advantage of running extra units in the front line. Okay. So we'll go into the battle and we'll just discuss a bit more about Chasun and raids. Now, I also mentioned you wanted to have a good amount of resist on her. I feel that it's best to try to max the resist if you can. Mine's not quite there yet. Well, I'm trying to find some more better quality runes to replace it with. But what you want to try to aim for is at least 60% res. All right. Therefore, if you use 60% res with a DS res leader, you have 90%, right, total resistance with that leader. And then if someone happens to be running a Praha or something similar that has 41% res lead, then you have max resist, right? So you're I guess making use of the all your stats more efficiently, right? Because assuming you have the same amount of stat allocation to put into other stats, you're not putting too much weight onto your res, if that makes sense. And therefore you can focus a bit more on the other stats, because typically you have to give up like small amounts of other stats to get your res up, right? Because you need extra rolls into res. But I think 90% is already pretty good. I don't feel you really need much more. But in the event that you do have someone with res lead, then you got the maximum amount of res possible, and you're not wasting any stats when using that, right? And if you can't get, Nemesis is the best because it helps her move more often, especially if you're running only 2 in the front line, so she'll be taking a lot more damage, right? So her having Nemesis means she can keep up, she gains a lot more gauge bar, to make sure that she can keep herself up with Fallen Blossom if she takes a big hit from the boss. And just another thing to note, what I like about Chasun as a main healer, right? As I mentioned before, when units have very low max HP, her Amuse will heal a large portion of their health, right? Because like 20, I'm not sure the exact calculation, but let's say 20% on about 38k HP, adding on the skill ups, you're expecting her to heal for about 8k, right? And therefore, the lower the total health pool, then the more of the percentage that she's going to heal for that unit. So units like Silver, right, where I'm building him on a lot of defense for the front line, right, and also just because his damage scales on defense, his HP pool is going to be a lot less, and therefore an Amuse will pretty much heal like half his health, right? So that's why I think it's good to have to stack your other units with high defense as opposed to having a lot of HP. I mean, HP is still nice to have. It increases the survivability, of course, but because there's no defense break or anything like that in the raid, like defense helps survivability a lot more. Try to keep it a bit balanced, but lean more towards having more defense for raids. Okay. Now, in a PvP sense, like units that you would typically team her up with are Field Mars. My bad, I crashed. So let me try to get back in. So you usually pair her with Field Mars and then like another unit, support unit. That support unit I usually use Brian, just so that I have a backup, like a res backup, in case someone gets killed, particularly Field Mars, because he's quite vulnerable once his injury is popped, right? So I'm not sure if I can show you. I can't show you because I've already used my attacks. But yeah, so I'm just going to discuss some common units that they get paired with, right? So I usually use Brian because he's got the attack debuff, right, and that helps the whole team survivability. Then, as I said, the res helps in case shit happens. If there's if someone procs a lot of violence, he can help recover the team. Other units that you can use it with are like Veromos with like Field Mars, Veromos, Chasun. That's another staple sort of team. So you would make your Veromos slightly faster than your Field Mars, so that he can cleanse any debuffs that are put on Field Mars before he moves, especially if you're not using Will Runes, right? But this is a good sort of endurance team as well, because Veromos provides like cleansing, right? That's quite important. He can get rid of it helps keep off defense break and stuff like that, and he can stun. So it's a good, just like a solid, all-round solid team. And like both Field Mars and Veromos are farmable. Well, Field Mars is technically farmable. It just depends on your luck on whether you get him. Like Field Mars can be replaced with any nuker really, as long as you have a defense breaker in your team. That works fine. So other ways that I use Chasun is with the Wind Monkey King, because he's got his own defense break as well, and he's a tanky damage dealer. And occasionally I might use it with like a Chroma. As I said, you can use it with any nuker really. In the rare instances that I can use Ralk, then Chasun also comes in for that. Ideally, that team would have a Veladrul, but you could also use Delphoy for that team as well. It still works, but just not as good. Who else can you use? Another staple sort of Guild Wars team is Field Mars, Tsarion, and Chasun. So this is for teams where you don't really need any buff removal, but you do want Oblivion, so you can bring Oblivion with the defense break, and then you got attack power buff as well from Chasun. So Field Mars will hit very hard in that team, right? Usually that's the main ways I use Chasun. I'm sure there's plenty of ways you can use her. Like there's a lot of different units you can use in combination with her. She's a just good all-round PvP unit and PvE unit, right? So just to finish up, other ways you can use her is in Giants. I don't use her anymore, but for just people that are starting out in Giants, she's a really strong healer for that. And also for TOA, I usually use her in TOA. As an example, just here, she provides attack buff, right? It's very consistent attack buff as well because it's a 2-turn buff on a 3-turn cooldown. So she can keep it up a fair amount of the time with Vana procs, and this is good for just autoing through TOA, especially because with Fallen Blossom, she doesn't care about heal block when she has Fallen Blossom, so that's another advantage to her. Even though you'll probably bring Veramos for like a TOA hard auto team, but in case the Veramos can't remove it, then Chasun can still heal with that. Right, that's an advantage of using Chasun over, say, a Bella. Bella would be the free-to-play option for TOA healers, but if you have a Chasun, you would definitely use her for that. The only other replacement I would say is, Ariel is probably the most strongest healing unit, other than Chasun. Alright, so that's all the time we've got for that today. I mean, there's not much I can really show you her in action. You probably see me use her a lot in Guild Wars anyway, so I'm sure there's not much else for me to show you for that. But I just hope that the explanations have helped you, with how you rune your Chasun and where you utilize her. So thanks guys for tuning in for this monster guide. I will do some more in the future. It's been a long time since I last did one, so I'll try to do some more soon. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.